called as Totto-Chan, The Little Girl at the Window. Uh, this was written by, like it's a Japanese book. Then it was translated into so many 30 plus languages across the globe. It was one of the famous books of that time, and also a lot of the people, the educationists and the people who are interested in education read it a lot. It's a very small book of 110 pages, I guess. I don't have the copy of the book. I've unfortunately I have lent it to someone. I just glanced through once because I've read it many times before, and also I just wanted to glance through before I wanted to review. So I just reviewed through the PDF version. This is written by an author called as Tetsuko, Kuroyanagi. Tetsuko Kuroyanagi is, she has written a small memoir. I think the memoirs, the biography, I would say, is, spans over 9 years, brief time during the World War, 1942, 1949, 50, in between that period. And she writes about her own experiences at the school, basically, and one of the special schools that she had studied in. The book is really nice. Talks about a lot of conversation of a young girl with the teacher, with the parents, with her friends, and it's beautifully written. I mean, the 100 pages, you don't like you feel like you are just watching the movie. It's written so nicely in a very, at least the English version, which is being translated, it's in a very wicked language. So just to give a background of the author is she's a like presently she's based out of Japan, and the book was written in 1981. I think she was approximately uh, somewhere around 40s and 50s. Now she is 80. So she's been made the Goodwill ambassador of UNICEF recently because of the popularity of this book. Because this book questions the present system of education that's happening across the globe. It asks relevant questions. Are we addressing the concerns of the students who are studying in the class? So basically, so just to give the context of that book, then I will get into the review now. So what I can say is that this book is very interesting. The focus is more on the basic, like the author's basic, the education that she went through, the elementary education, I would say. Uh, However, the book is, I would say that book is much more than a memoir. It primarily merits on the kind of conversation that she has, as I was saying, conversation she has with her teachers, her parents, and all stuff. But what I would like to present here is that, like, why the title is Totto-Chan and the little girl at the window. Usually in the Japanese culture, they usually have the nicknames. The author, was given a nickname by her parents as Toto at that point of time. And usually, with the nickname, they attach Chan or Yan in Japanese culture. So it's Chan here. Why the little girl at window in the title? It's a very interesting story. The girl was studying in a kindergarten, and her desk is always placed beside the window, and she's always popping out of the window. So and then she gets back to her desk, open the desk, and close the desk, and she'll be kind of not be focusing on the classroom, the traditional classroom that she's into. One fine day, the principal or the teacher calls her parents and say that we cannot teach your children because teach your child because she does not focuses in the classroom. She always keeps seeing outside the window what's happening around, and she does not focus on the activities that we are trying to give her. So unfortunately, she's been kind of removed from the school. The mother of the girl is really upset. Mother of the author, I would say, is really upset, but she will not inform her that she's been removed. She feels that the girl will feel very bad. After some days, she finds a beautiful school called as Tomoe. Name of the school is Tomoe, and the name of the teacher who is running that school is Kobayashi, like who is the I would say the hero of this particular book. So what she does is that she takes the child to that particular alternative school. It's not a traditional school. It's an alternative school where they're trying to give some interesting kind of learning experiences to the children, especially from the lower ages. And that particular Tomai school was not that famous in Japan at that point of time. It was known, for its kind of democratic learning experiences. So the mother takes the girl to that particular school, and interestingly, the school has, two, like, I'll just give a visual representation of that school. A school has nine boxes, train boxes. I think the headmaster of that school, Mr. Kobayashi, has taken that particular, those the used train which were not in use now, so to build his school in those railway boxes. And and there are two big trees in between them. We have this train boxes, and as soon as the mother takes the girl, Toto Chan, to that particular school, Toto kind of start asking the questions directly to the principal. And she says, what kind of nuisance that she used to do in the previous school, and the kind of scoldings that she used to get every time. And the principal kind of listen to her conversation for more than 3 hours. So just keep on listening and having conversation with her and trying to understand her background. She's just 3 or 4 years old, trying to share everything that she has experienced in the previous school, and having conversation with the parents and all that she was sharing with the principal, which is being written very beautifully in this particular book actually. And then Mr. Kobayashi, who is the headmaster, asked Toto that we have been kind of having the conversation for the last 3 years now, so let us go and have some lunch. So like there are like 40, 50 kids, not more than that, in the school, and they're all sitting spaciously and having their own lunch. Interestingly, the pedagogy which is involved here is that Mr. Kobayashi asked the children. He just wanted to understand and give them sense of what is being grown on the land and what is being grown in the sea. So he asked, how many of you have got the food that is made, that you have got it from the sea? And then how many of you have got the food that you have got it from the land, basically, and trying to make those distinctions. This is an interesting pedagogy that is being followed by Mr. Kobayashi while dealing with his students in the school. That's one of the pedagogy that I found it interesting, and Toto starts liking that particular school, and she has a lot of conversation. I think Mr. Kobayashi follows this something, a term called as constructivism. Constructivism is that the child builds his own knowledge when she is exposed to that particular kind of atmosphere. Mr. Kobayashi gives different kinds of experiences. He has different kinds of conversations in the classroom while having kind of interaction with the children. That's what made it very kind of interesting when the pedagogy or the transactions are happening. So that's the beautiful part. So like I just want to share one experience. So Mr. Kobayashi wanted handicapped children in the school to be more accepting of their bodies. On sports day, he gave away carrots and cabbages so that the children could earn a meal for their family. So I mean, like he wants to kind of make his school more inclusive. He wants to make sure that everyone, irrespective of their level of intelligence, participates in each and every activity and the conversation that is happening in the school. So I think the Totto-Chan, the experiences like a lot of experiences are covered, a lot of interactions happening with the teacher. It also covers the major important event of that particular era, the World War II, what was happening around when the US had attacked the Pearl Harbor and the World War II triggered. So like there's a drama where the Kobayashi is trying to explain there's a devil and who is gonna attack all of us and all kind of a thing, and trying to convince the peace loving society is the only solution for the present generation, and we should always look for those solutions. What I like about this book is that the conversation that Mr. Kobayashi has with the students, the kind of like basically he believed in the philosophy where the children build their concepts, the children learn by themselves. Actually, only the role of the teacher is to facilitate that kind of learning. It sounds very idealistic for us to kind of assume that that kind of learning can happen, but this is something which the teachers or the education system, the people, the stakeholders in the education system can think and reflect the kind of experiences that they want to give to their children, the kind of conversations that they like to kind of have with the children. A lot of our classrooms are very one-sided. I mean, like mostly they are lecture based. They're not didactic. There's no dialogue in the amongst between the teacher and the student. I would say the learner, the relationship between the teacher and the learner and the relationship between the learner and the learner, which is very important for the learning of the children. I found very interesting that Toto was trying to, kind of learn from her own peers also. There's a conversation where she's talking to her own, uh, you know, uh, like classmates or her friends, and trying to learn something. There's some interesting and humorous conversation that she has here. I think I would recommend this book. Like everyone should read this book at least. You'll find it like it's like a movie. You're watching a movie for 100 pages and you'll really love it actually. So that's one thing. So this is what I really enjoyed reading. So I think a person who is interested to explore this particular, a kind of the way the education works, the way the learning happens in the classroom, or the way the children constructs their knowledge, and the children, the way they perceive their things and trying to kind of react. So this is something which is very interesting. So this is what I wanted to read today. So open to questions now. So if anybody wants to ask anything or want to know more about it, so they can ask. I didn't do justice to it because I, kind of gave a gist of what exactly is there in the book. I didn't get into, what exactly are the conversations there happening. So yeah, because that would take much time. So
Yeah,
I have more
and
questions. Yeah, yeah, yes,
yeah,
sir.
uh, I'm I'm really interested to know how you, because your own background in you're working in education in Azim Premji Foundation,
Right, right, yeah.
uh, and it seems to me that a lot of these principles are being applied over there, right?
You mean
Being made
so?
to apply those principles.
So it's like I would say that like in the foundation the work is different, but in the foundation schools I would say that
Yeah.
this is being tried to we're trying to imply that, trying to promote these kind of relationship with the teacher, like teacher learner relationship or learner relationship, which is the focus of this particular book.
Yeah. So is this like a collection of stories? Is it?
No, 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 no. It's a small, all the conversations. It's like a novel basically, but it's a non-fiction biography.
Yeah.
It's just the one story. You have different themes, like I said. One was in the previous school, which she called it as a boring school, and then the new school, the Tomoe, and then you have about the World War. So you have total 4 or 5 sections across each of 20-25 pages each.
So I have one more question, sir. Like, how do you like to differentiate between the education that runs in our system and the education that is happening in the book? So, what are the differences did you find?
One, I mean, like I was telling while I was reviewing the book, the kind of education that we have is that the teacher prepares some stuff and then she kind of transacts that particular thing into the classroom. And it happens where the teacher has more of a role to play, and she is giving what she has to the children, and then kind of working around. She's not Our system of education is not child centric, but in the book it is child centric, where the teacher is trying to kind of gather this knowledge which the students already have. For example, I was telling you, right, while having lunch, so she was asked, like the Mr. Kobayashi, sorry, he was asking, what kind of food that you have got on the table, like in the box today? Is it from the sea or is it from the land? So these kind of like the knowledge, the children usually get it, like what we say, like they have been intuited to kind of respond to these things, and then trying to what the pre knowledge that they have, trying to gather that pre knowledge and trying to convert that into their learning is the job of the teacher here. So this is what I found different. The teacher is playing more of a role of a facilitator than being a lecturer or a transactor in the classroom. I hope it is clear, Rashmi.
Yes, yes, it is clear. You can either ask the questions, or if you have anything to share about the books, you can either unmute yourself and you can say, or you can even put your comments in the chat box.
I have a question. So
Yes, yes, Abhi.
this is more to do with not necessarily directly to do with the book that you have reviewed right now. I want to know if there are any other books which are very similar to this, which have spoken about the education system in India. For
Yeah,
example,
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
uh, for instance, we have an education system which has led us all to a point where we find it very irrelevant to study so many subjects in school and also college.
Right, right.
Precisely why many of us actually face a lot of depression, suicidal tendencies, and also a lot of dissociation with the social groups with which we are engaging in on an everyday basis. So, are there any books which actually talk about the Indian education system, just like how you spoke of about the Japanese education system?
Yes, there is one book called as Divya Sapna by Gijubai Phadeka. So, which is something on a more similar lines, but talks in context of the Indian education system. I can write it in the text box. I'll write it there. That's one book that comes to my mind. There are many others. Like, I'm not sure if you have read. Like, they are more kind of a theoretical books. Divya Sapna is something which is very practical. And there's another one, Diary of Hemraj Bhatt. Hemraj Bhatt is a teacher in one of the village schools of Uttarakhand, government schools there, and he has written his experiences of dealing with the children on everyday basis for the three almost over a span of 3 years, and that is kind of a very good compilation which the other teachers can also replicate across the nation, because given the similar context and the similar socioeconomic backgrounds that the children come from in the public school, so that can be one of the useful things. Those are the two books that come to my mind. The third book, it's not, it's a more of a theoretical book. That's, you might have heard about Jiddu Krishnamurti, uh, and his book, a lot of his books, like there are 3 or 4 books which talks about this kind of system of education. When you take up the school, I would say that there are 2 schools which are working on the similar model, which I have visited. One is Center for Learning in Bangalore, which is run by Kamala Mukund and Nisha Mukund. Even their book, What Did You Ask at School Today by Kamala Mukund, is one of the books that talks about these kind of things. I mean, it is more of a technical book on understanding how the children learn and how the children respond, basically. And there's another school called as Rishi Valley in Kuppam, which is 60 kilometers of Bangalore, which follows a similar kind of strategy. So yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah. Thank you, Abhinav.